So in this lesson, we can continue looking at the output of the Netstat, and let's see what we can figure out from the Netstat output. So we have the Netstat output saved right here. So this is a file we are going to look. So I'm going to copy this and going to Visual Studio Code. I'm going to open a new instance so that it won't disturb our client and server. So open file, Control V. So this is the output of Netstat. Again, our strategy is pretty straightforward. We are going to search for our port. So Control F, our port number is 65432. That is our port number. So in this case, we have two entries. As you can see here, one entry is this right here, and another entry is this. So as you can see, Netstat, at least in the current form, is giving us little less information than TCP view, which is kind of true with a lot of command line tools to save space. Unlike UI tools like TCP view, they start with minimalistic information, but normally you can get everything out of it if you pass the right arguments. In this case, it is not showing the listening socket or listening entry we had in TCP view. It is showing the established ones. But otherwise, if you look carefully, it is exactly same information. So this is the process or the application or the piece of code which is having this particular entry, and this is the protocol, and this is the local IP address. This is the local port, and this is the remote IP address or host name. We'll see all these things, and remote port, and the status of the socket is established. Now whenever I say entry, because we have not established as of now, each entry is a socket. We have not come to that point. We are slowly coming to it, but until we'll just call this entry. But to spoil a little bit, each entry is nothing but a socket. In fact, a particular type of file object in an operating system. But all those details coming up later. But the status of the entry is established, or the state. Now, one thing worth mentioning here is that why is this S1 here? Basically, S1 is the name of this computer, this laptop, and it can resolve to this IP address because it is the IP address of the local host. Before getting into much details, for the time being, we can think of it is exactly same as this, at least from the discussion perspective. But this IP or host name will actually resolve into the IP address of this laptop on a particular interface, network interface, but we'll get into all those kind of nitty-gritties later. For the time being, you can think of this S1 is exactly same as this IP address, which we saw in TCP view. Now, how do we see listening sockets or listening entries in Netstat? Now, let's search for that. Listening sockets in Netstat in Windows. Whenever you search for Netstat, make sure that you mention Windows because the command line options for Netstat in Windows and Linux are slightly different. Let's see, the first link gives us something. Normally it goes to the Microsoft documentation. -A gives us listening. So N will take that S1 out of the picture. So it gives the IP address, and B is a switch we have used, which gives us the process name. So let's try that. Netstat -A and B. So I'm passing all the options. This is how you pass all the options to Netstat in Windows. So we got a pretty bigger entry this time. And as you can see, there are listening sockets as well, just like in the case of TCP view. Now let's again pipe it into the text file. I'm putting it _L and AN I'm mentioning. Feel free to check the documentation of Netstat or read articles around command line options of Netstat. Open file, open. And again, we are going to search for the same thing. So this time we have 3 entries. 1, 2, 3 entries. this is familiar to us because of the N, option N, that S1 has gone. As you can see here, it has a resolved to the name. We'll talk about all these things in great detail about DNS resolutions and things like that. But for the time being, the N removed that S1. And as you can see here, it's the same information. Now, here, this is a thing which was missing. The third entry which was missing. Local IP address, local port, and listening. The remote IP address and port in this case is everything 0. And this is the entry we have already seen. And we don't know yet what this is about. This remote port of the client. Again, to spoil a little bit, this is a randomly allocated port and it is called client port in the socket terminology. Every time you start your client, you'll get a different number within a certain range. But the number, normally it's a 5-digit number, which is randomly allocated. We'll learn about ports pretty soon. Till then, just to quench your curiosity. So we have seen Netstat as a very similar tool as TCP view, just that it is a command line version of TCP view. You can get same information, exactly same information using different commands, arguments in Netstat. Netstat has way more arguments than the ones we saw. But for the time being, this is good enough for us. We are just observing things about our program. Let's keep doing it. And next tool we will see is Resource Monitor. Again, a Windows specific thing, and we'll see similar things there as well. So to conclude, we have looked at the output of Netstat and we have figured out that it is very similar to TCP view. In fact, we are going to see another tool called a Resource Monitor in Windows, which is another tool which has similar type of data in different format. Let's have a look at it.